Speaking of Star Wars and some Star Wars news, Moses Ingram, she plays Reva in the Kenobi TV series. She's been getting like, she's, according to her, hundreds of racist messages and threats and, you know, the usual terrible shit that happens on the internet because people don't like her character after 2 episodes. And that shit, like, it infuriates me. It doesn't matter what her race is, it doesn't matter what her gender is. If it was a man, if it was a woman, if it was a freaking someone who was trans, if it was someone who was any, you know, race, I would have the exact same reaction. Because I feel like sometimes when you get mad at certain things, you feel like you're only getting mad because it's, you know, a similar race as yours. It's not the case at all. Like, that shit infuriates me. Cause it's like, first off, it's not real. Like, you're mad about a character who's not real. It's fiction. Reva's a fictional character that someone or a group of people wrote in a room and made up. And you're taking your anger out on a real person who's just playing a role, who's doing a job. And I keep saying this when it comes to like how like nerd culture is, because this is not just a Star Wars issue. This is like all of nerd culture who does this shit. Be it Star Wars, be it anime fans, be it freaking gamers. It happens in every single one of these fucking communities. It's all a bunch of disgusting, trifling bullshit. And all it does is it makes people who aren't part of these communities hate the fucking community. People who aren't part of these communities are gonna have a viewpoint, a view of the community. It's like, that's what these people are. You want to know why politicians and lawmakers and parents freaking think gamers and nerds are the reason for why society being so fucked up? It's because we freaking are sitting here sending racist comments to fucking actors and shit. They see those articles on the news, or they hear about that shit on CNN and whatnot, and they go, wow, these fucking gamers, these freaking Star Wars fans, these anime fans are fucking unhinged. They're fucking weird. And then what they do is they blame it on the content, but why y'all are fucking weirdos who are freaking hateful individuals. So all the people who are part of these communities who aren't bad people are suffering because, you know, there's some jackasses who are just hateful pieces of shit. But like it's ridiculous that someone has to go through that kind of shit. And it's not even just her. Like, recently there was this little actress, and I say little, I mean she's a child actress. She's like under the age of like 15 or some shit. I don't know who she is. I don't know what movie she's in. I was only aware because Javicia Leslie was talking about it on Twitter. You know, Javicia Leslie played Batwoman. But she was saying that this little kid, this little black kid, is getting racist comments on her social media because he wouldn't like her character in whatever movie she was playing in. Like, it's ridiculous. And again, I'll go back to talking about Laura Bailey. Laura Bailey is one of the nicest people in acting. Like, legit, one of the nicest fucking people. And she got death threats. She got threats of getting raped. People was messaging her, telling her they're gonna kill her and her kid. Why? Because a video game character died, and they blame her for that video game character dying. Literally, The Last of Us 2. The Last of Us 2, Laura Bailey plays a character named Abby. Abby kills the main character named Joel in Last of Us 2. Because of people being angry at that, they're sending death threats, rape threats to Laura Bailey and saying they're going to kill her kid. That's what the community is. The community is playing Rainbow Six Siege or playing League of Legends and telling the female gamers, shouldn't you be in the kitchen? That's this fucking community. The community is us finding out yesterday that Moses Ingram is getting racist comments because people don't like her character in Star Wars. And if you're just tuning in, that's why I'm on this freaking rant. Yesterday, Moses Ingram, she plays Reva in Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series. And she is getting a lot of racist comments towards her. She said hundreds of racist DMs and comments because people are mad at the character Reva. And the big issue isn't even that it's fucking like people are being anonymous. It's because this shit's enabled. All this shit that happens in the nerd community is enabled by everybody else in the nerd community. Because what happens, you have the copium, which is basically people sitting here like, it's not everyone, it's just some bad apples. It's not everyone, it's just, you know, a small sector of people. If you gotta say that for every community in nerd culture, if you gotta say it about gamers, say about people who watch anime, people who watch freaking Star Wars, who watch Star Trek, if you gotta say it for every sector of group of people, then it's not just a small group of people. They got their herd identity because people are fucking racist, unhinged, crazy people. That's the fucking like, and I said this ironically. Someone who I associate with on Twitter had made a post about, you know, why people behave the way they make, and I told her the reason why people behave the way they behave on the internet is because there's no consequence. Consequence leads to everything. You know, when there's like actual legitimate consequence to the internet, things will change. Because right now there is no real consequence. You know, what's the worst that can happen to people who are sending racist DMs to Moses Ingram? They'll get suspended from Instagram for a month. They don't give a fuck. Oh no, I can't go on Instagram for a month. What if they get a permanent ban? They'll make a new account. It doesn't fucking matter. They'll just make a new account. There's no actual consequence. When there's like actual laws that affect this shit to where you can be fined thousands of dollars for this kind of shit, things will change. When you can get arrested for this kind of shit, things will fucking change. When there's actual consequence, it'll fucking change. They shouldn't go after anybody. Like, if you don't like a character in a TV show or video game or whatever, which what you could do is be constructive with criticism and say, hey, even though I'm enjoying this TV show, I don't like how this character is written. The end. Going after someone is more of a threat way, where it's like, you know, I don't like this character. I hope these fucking developers die. That's what people do. Or they'll call these, like, this is what happens when you hire a bunch of leftist freaking writers. That's what people are doing on the internet. They're not giving constructive criticism when they're going, hey, I just think this person wasn't a good actor. No, they're going straight to personal insults. And again, this shit happens. Why? Because these fuckers don't have any freaking like consequence. There's nothing that happens to them for it. They know for a fact they're not going to lose their job over this shit because it's the internet. They can just delete their tweet or delete their Facebook post and their bosses won't see it. You know, or they don't use their real face for picture on internet, so no one's supposed to look like, or they use a fake name, so, you know, their girlfriends or their boyfriends or their parents don't see this shit that they're saying. There's a lack of consequence on the internet. That's the issue. There's a lack of consequence. When you throw in some consequences, things will fucking change. But since there is no consequence, people just do this shit, and it pisses me the fuck off. Like, when I saw her video on her IG, because she posted like an IG IG reels, I almost fucking cried watching like, listen to the emotion in her voice almost made me freaking cry, because I was like, this is bullshit. Because I'm a Star Wars fan, so I'm witnessing someone who might throw a hatred towards Star Wars, because here's what happens when people react this way to anyone. They grow a disdain for the community. Not the product, for the community. And I'm gonna run this down to y'all so y'all can understand just how bad the Star Wars community is. The Star Wars community hated Jar Jar Binks so much, and they bullied the actor who played Jar Jar Binks so much. The Jar Jar Binks actor was suicidal afterwards. They bullied someone into being suicidal. The Star Wars community is so fucking toxic and so terrible that Hayden Christensen, the guy who plays Anakin and Darth Vader, he got depressed after Star Wars. Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen both thought that they were hated by the Star Wars community. You think that's enough? It's not. The person who plays Rose in the newer movies, Kelly Marie Tran, she got so much hate Because of that character, she quit social media. She quit social media. They bullied her off social media. The kid who played Anakin when Anakin was a kid, he quit acting because of Star Wars community. A kid who was getting bullied for episode 1, he quit acting because of the community of Star Wars. The only person who's getting consequences from all this bullshit is the victims of the bullshit. People who are doing it aren't facing any consequences. It's literally just people who are receiving it. And like, it knows like even more fucked up. When they first hired Moses Ingram to play Reva, they warned her, Lucasfilms warned her, you might see some backlash. Because they fucking do. And you want to know what's the icing on the cake for how weird it is that this fan base is racist as fuck? George Lucas is married to a black woman and they have black kids. So you're being racist towards black people while the creator of your fucking product has black children. Maybe it is why Lucas sold. I don't know why he sold, but maybe it has something to do with just how much negative feedback he was getting. And the thing is, it's not negative feedback itself. Is when that feedback is just personal insults, when it's death threats, when it's threats towards your family, when it's racial insults, when it's sexist insults, when, like I said, constructive criticism is okay. And no one is upset with constructive criticism. Which, understand what that is. Constructive criticism is you're basically giving a legitimate complaint. You're talking about, you know, hey, I didn't like the writing. I felt like this scene was you know, a big plot hole for the continuity of the series. That's constructive criticism. You know, if someone's watching my live stream and, you know, let's say during the conversation they say, hey, I understand everything you're saying, but I feel like there's a lot of emotion there, and I feel like that can make you biased. Like, there could be some that's constructive criticism. They're not going, hey, shut up, you little black bastard. No one cares. Like, that's different than what I said before. There's constructive criticism, and then there's just going straight for like being hateful. The internet is everyone's just purely hateful on the fucking internet. I don't consider myself a part of the gaming community because gaming communities full of toxic pieces of shit. I'm not going to enable its bullshit. I don't consider myself part of the Star Wars community because I don't want to be associated with these pieces of crap in the Star Wars community. I'm just my own person who's a fan of a lot of stuff. I'm not part in these fucking communities. I don't want to be associated with these pieces of shit, these terrible ass human beings. Because that's what you are. If you're someone who's sending death threats to people for their job, you're sending racist comments to people when it comes to their job, you're threatening people's families, you're threatening to rape people, you are a bad human being. I don't care if it's the internet, it's just not being real. You're a bad human being. There's no excuses for it. You're just a bad human being. As I said before, a lot of the times when it comes to this bullshit, people just go, it's the internet, it's not real, who cares? That's why this shit happens, because there's no consequence. Everyone thinks the internet's just this fake bullshit. Like, nah, you're a bad piece of shit. You're garbage. Do you have any remorse? No, they don't have any remorse because there's no consequence. Remorse comes with consequence. They know it's wrong. They don't care if it's wrong or not. It's not what they're thinking about. They're bad people. People who are bad don't care about right and wrong. Especially if they're part of an echo chamber where people are liking their comments or liking their tweets or retweeting their tweets or sharing what they share or saying, yeah, I agree with you, you're right, and they're joining in. There's like people, all those people who say this kind of shit, they have an echo chamber of people who agree with them, who say the exact same shit as them. And even if it's just 5 people out of 1,000, that's enough people to feel like, you know, what you're saying is true and important. They're garbage human beings. And they feel like, well, I'm not breaking any laws, so therefore I'm not a bad person. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't actually rape anybody. I'm not a bad person. There's actual bad things happening in the world. It's just the internet. Don't take it so serious. You're taking it so serious. That's what all this shit gets talked about. So you're taking it too serious. It's not that serious. And like I told my cousin this today on Facebook, I was like, all this shit does is it make these actors and actresses not want to be a part of anything involving nerd culture. They'll stick to doing, you know, Martin's or Stacey's movies, or doing like, you know, all these other non-nerd related movies because they don't have to deal with this bullshit. They see how these other actors are getting treated and are like, you know, I'm not dealing with it. I'm not about to sit here and play in a Halo TV series and they get death threats. Don't the platforms or trolls are used to have policies against hate? They do, but the outcome of it is you just get like spend it for a day. If you do it again, you can spend it for like a week. You do it again, you can spend it for a month. You do it again, you can spend it for a few months. Do it again, you get banned, and then you just take into account. Like, the actions don't have real consequence. Getting banned isn't a real consequence because you're just making into account. You know, there's no, like, when people start getting arrested, then you'll start seeing, you know, people change, or at least at the very least not put it on internet. You know, when your first offense for this kind of shit is you got to pay a fucking $2,000 fine or community service, people will start changing. Your second offense, you're going to freaking spend a week in jail, then things will change. There has to be actual consequence. Getting banned isn't a consequence. And the thing is, everything I'm saying right now to you, Popcorn, likely makes a lot of fucking sense, and it's like, you know what, you're right. But I guarantee you, there'll be people who will see this shit, who will see this part of the stream. No, I'll put it on YouTube. People who will see it on YouTube and they'll go, "Shut the fuck up! You know what you're talking about." You know, like, you're talking about a small sector of these communities. You know, again, they'll go to excuses and being in denial about how shitty these cultures are. You know, people will react to me the same way they reacted to LeBron James. You know, they had to tell LeBron James shut up and dribble when he talked about freaking serious shit. They would tell me to freaking shut up and play video games. I said it before when it came to like what happened with Daphne, which is Dave Chappelle's friend who committed suicide. She got bullied by her own community into killing herself. Because the internet has no fucking remorse. The internet doesn't care. There's a professional wrestler, named Hannah Kimura, who killed herself because she got bullied on Twitter by toxic ass wrestling fans. And again, I say, who's paying the consequences for this bullshit? The victim is the one who's facing the consequences of all this shit. People who are doing stuff on the internet aren't facing any consequences. People who face the consequence are the fucking victims. She got bullied on the internet and killed herself. Her mother, who's also a wrestler, has to live the rest of her life knowing that her 23-year-old daughter, she was 23 at the time, took her own life because of the internet. Daphne's little daughter has to live with the fact that her mother got bullied on the internet and took her own life by her own community. And the community doesn't face any like consequence for that. She just doesn't have her mother anymore. Say it again, when there's consequence for all this bullshit, things will fucking change. And I mean actual fucking consequence, not no fucking suspensions and bans. That ain't shit. As hate speech laws, Congress needs to regulate it better. Maybe deplatform companies and people. It's not a consequence for that, like the individual. It's a consequence for groups. Like, deplatforming companies wouldn't really make the people change. And if you go with hate speech laws, you start getting, you know, these gun-toting Americans who are like, I have a freedom of speech. Hate speech is freedom of speech. It's like, it's just has have the consequences that I mentioned before about law enforcement being able to arrest people who make threats on the internet. And again, like when it comes to like getting Congress involved, they don't understand this shit. They're a bunch of like 80-year-old, 70-year-old, you know, old people who don't understand any of this shit. So what they would want to do is have even more control than what we're offering them when it comes to just consequences for the actions. They will want more policing of it, more so than, all right, we'll make laws where if you do death threats or racial comments, you can get arrested or face fines. They'll go beyond that and want to have actual full control, because they already have their own precognizant thought process of these communities to begin with. You know, these old people already freaking blame video games and movies for, you know, world violence. You know, the freaking sheriff in that Texas shooting, he freaking blames cyber gaming for why that shooting happened. Not the fact that an 18-year-old had a freaking AR-15. You know, not that kid freaking was sending messages to some chick in Germany who freaking knew was all going to happen, but she didn't know how to contact the authorities in America. Not that the kid who did the shit in Buffalo, he freaking was posting on Discord, you know, what he was going to do, and no one said shit about it. It's easier to just be like, well, maybe we need to punish the games or the movies and not the people. All that shit avoids the people. People are a fucking problem. It's kind of like when people go, well, they have a mental health problem. Like, that's just an excuse for their behavior. There's too many situations where people are given an excuse for freaking bad behavior. Other countries have this problem. Like, other countries have the exact same problems the United States have. Theirs just not as publicized because they're not the freaking the reigning empire of the world. This shit happens in Europe, happens in South America, happens in the Caribbean, happens in Canada, happens in Russia, happens in Eastern Europe, it happens in Southeast Asia. Anywhere that's not a third world country, it happens. Who's the worst? They're all bad. There is no, you know, who's the worst. They're all bad. Like, there is no excuses or anything like that. There's no comparing. It's just all bad. Bad is bad. And that's also part of like the problem with our society, is that we have that discussion on, well, what's the worst? You know, like, sure, like you see people in England who are like, yeah, they have a knifing issue in England where there's a constant knifing crime in England. And people in England will go, yeah, knifing is bad here, but the United States has freaking gun issues. So it's like it deflects from, like, you know, the actual problem to play the whataboutism game. Whataboutism is, well, what about this person? Well, what about that person? Or otherism. It's like you just mention other things to avoid the actual issue or the actual problem. You know, at the same time, we're talking about freaking the actress who plays Reva getting hundreds of racist comments. There's soccer players in Europe who are getting racist comments as well. You know, because they missed a goal or they allowed a goal on defense. So now they're getting racist comments. You know, soccer has a huge problem with fan racism towards players. Yeah, I saw the tweet. I shared the tweet on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I didn't put it in Discord, but basically, you know, they made a post directed towards her, and then they made a post, you know, in reply, because they were getting comments on that post that to defend her, of people saying more hateful shit in their tweet. So they had another tweet after that, you know, saying, you know, there's 20 million species in Star Wars, don't be a racist. But even in like their tweets, there's people freaking who are, you know, being toxic as fuck. Because even when you tell these people that they're doing bad shit, they don't care. They know what they're doing is bad. They just don't give a shit. And I'll say it again, like I said before, the people who suffer the most from this shit when it comes to consequences is the victims. The victims are the ones who face consequence. If they're the ones who are getting all the hate and all the toxic shit directed towards them, yet the only person who's getting punished is themselves. People who are doing it aren't being punished at all. Rosario Dawson catch heat, not as much. The heat that she did get was people who were mad that the girl who voice acts for Ahsoka, they wanted her to play Ahsoka in the TV series, so they got mad at that and was complaining about, you know, the actors who played Ahsoka in cartoons not playing Ahsoka in the TV show. Yeah, like a lot of these little nerd culture groups, they basically want things their way, and even then they'll still complain regardless if they can even get it their way. It's their way or complain, or, you know, give them what they want and they still complain. So I can say yesterday when I referenced the Chris Rock joke about when Chris Rock and Bigger Blacker say you can fuck a woman with a diamond dick and she'll still bitch. Then it comes to nerds. You can give them everything they freaking want and they'll still freaking bitch. Is Call of Duty community worse than Star Wars? I feel like that's just more otherism, whereas you're trying to compare like other things to each other. They're all bad. Bad is bad. There is no worse. They're just all bad. You know, the same people who play Call of Duty also watch Star Wars. Like, a lot of these people in these communities are all part of the exact same community. Leader of the trolls. There's no one who's leading like trolls is, and I wouldn't even say like even calling them trolls is giving them an excuse, because the idea of a troll is someone who's just playing around, who's just joking. These are just hateful fucking people. You know, they're not trolls. They're just hateful, bad human beings. Trolls are people who say bad shit, or you know, they use comedy to be funny. They're not being serious. You know, they're aware of that their jokes are bad. You know, comedians are trolls. You know, so if you call these bad people a troll, is an excuse for them to be a bad person. I would say that social media didn't exist back then, so you can't really complain a lot when you don't really have the avenue to complain. Where are you gonna go to in 1977 to complain about, you know, Darth Vader's voice actor being black? Somewhere to the person you complain to is your friends. You know, there was no internet in the 70s. There was no social media in the 70s. They respect Lucas. Lucas got a lot of hate from Star Wars fans because they didn't like the prequels. They blame him for selling the company to Disney. So they also blame him for the newer movies. Lucas has gotten a lot of hate from Star Wars fans.